Nobody likes to talk about their weaknesses. I know I don't. But in this interview, John Warden opens up and talks about his struggle with his sexuality, his family dysfunction, and his life of promiscuity, and how that all contributed to his homelessness. And he does this because he wants people to understand. He's on a crusade. And he believes, and I agree with him, that the more people understand, the more likely we are to work as a community to provide solutions to end homelessness. So give a listen, and as you listen to this interview, if you have any questions, please ask in the comment section. John will answer them. He wants to make sure everything is answered. He wants people to understand. He wants solutions. And by the way, as you're asking those questions in the comment section, along the way, don't forget to hit the thumbs up button, like the video, and subscribe if you haven't already. Thanks for watching, and let me know what you think. Here's the interview.
Hi, my name is John Warden, and I was formerly homeless in Palm Springs from 2011 to 2016. I'm going to be talking about some stories of when I was homeless. This is for editorial purposes for Jonathan Primer's Primetime Musings on YouTube. So basically we're going to be talking about my lived experience on the streets of Palm Springs when I was there, and try to talk to the community about what it's like to be homeless, how I became homeless, what steps I took to get off the streets myself, and how it all worked out that I got off the street. So that's kind of what this is all about. It's our intention that we're going to do multiple interviews with me on different topics, getting my perspective from a standpoint of being someone that was homeless and living on the streets of Palm Springs, confronting a lot of the same issues that you folks were doing. First and foremost, I'll tell you, I was never arrested. I never begged or panhandled or stole anything from any store or anything like that. I'm kind of unique that way, I guess, but that's how I lived. And so we'll get into this more and more as Jonathan interviews me throughout this course of this process that we're going through right now. So I hope you guys will stay tuned and watch these interviews as they transpire. And I'm doing this from a remote location in Northern California. I have since relocated from Palm Springs to Northern California to Contra Costa County, which is just east of San Francisco. So I'm no longer in Palm Springs. I left Palm Springs in 2016. So I do come down to the communities down there and visit from time to time, and I'm an active volunteer for the Palm Springs Pride, which I have been for the last since 2009, I think it was. So back in '09. So anyways, stay tuned, and I look forward to doing more of these shows. Thanks.
The question on people's mind is, okay, you went to Palm Springs, you were born again Christian, so you were living with these guys, it was a little bit of a crazy situation, and then that somehow spiraled further down. So try to understand two things. One, how did it spiral down? And let's start there.
I became a meth user while I was in Palm Springs. I never used it before. I used it when I for about 6 years before after I got down there. Everything was clean. I'd smoke pot occasionally, but that was it.
You started using meth because why?
Yeah. Basically that's where the promiscuity comes into it, where I was starting to look for places to go and have fun, and so I was enticed by the whole situation and the environment in Palm Springs.
Was that kind of a gateway drug for you toward homelessness, or was it just a sign of you starting to lose control? What was it?
I had already been involved with bisexuality or doing other sexuality things up here. I was already doing that stuff. Wasn't doing it on drugs necessarily. So I was already established in what I was doing, but when I went down there, I didn't have time for it. So I just broke free. Plus, I didn't know that was the world of Palm Springs before I moved down there. I found out shortly afterwards that was a gay mecca. I didn't realize it was a gay mecca, but when I moved down there, I didn't know. it's just really interesting to me. And so when I went down there, I didn't have time for any of that stuff. I was dealing with this new life that I was creating for myself, and it was already not working out because I wasn't participating in having sex with these guys. This wasn't going to happen. So there was a lot of tension already there. Within 3 months of me being there, I was already under tension. And the situation was working itself out slowly, but there was always a mystery as to what would happen to me the next day. I was always under the gun of what would happen if I get kicked out.
What was creating the tension?
The tension was that I went down there for a specific purpose. There was, several reasons to take care of people and to service people and to do this stuff. And when it came down to the point of me taking care of them sexually, it was not going to happen because they had told me one thing and what was going on was a totally different situation, and I wasn't going to participate.
So they wanted you to go to. There were things that they wanted you to do that you weren't comfortable with.
Yeah, exactly. They were leather fetish people. They wanted to do stuff that I wasn't into. They didn't explain this to me beforehand. They told me they were pretty much vanilla, benign people, and that was fine because I really wasn't into it. I was just sort of like trying to find a way to get through my situation right then. Not knowing what I was going to do with my job up in Northern California, so I needed to find a place to go, and I was feeling a lot of pressure, and also I was getting angry at myself for not preparing this situation better for myself so I could take care of my situation.
So you're living out this, you're taking care of these guys. The tension's building because you're uncomfortable with the things that they want you to do. It's, you knew you were getting into a situation with some guys who had some sexual fetishes. You knew that was the case, but it was beyond what you expected, or you started having doubts about it. So people you were caring for, you had their elderly parents, they were sick, that complicated things. The old man, the older guy, Saul, dies, which was a heartache for you. I guess that created a lot of, you grieved for him. That was
having a timeline would help me to go through these events and unpack them, because just the moving down there, the reasons to move down there, what I was doing, what I was thinking to move down there and do what I would, what I could sign to do. And then the experience I had from that, going through it, I was being groomed basically to take care of these people. Looking back at it, I didn't understand what that meant to be groomed, but Mike, who was the main person I was contacting through this whole process of moving down to Palm Desert, was basically, really getting to know me, getting to understand my likes and where I was suffering from. And he would fluff me up in these areas and make me feel good about myself when he would key on things. He's a good listener.
When was he doing this?
This was during the 6 months before I moved down there, when I answered the ad, when I started corresponding with him through email and stuff about going down there and going to work for him. So he was really fluffing me up and making me feel like, that these people were good people, that they weren't nasty people, they were nice people. And the sex is what, any sex isn't nasty between people that like each other, so it's all cool. I thought that was fine, but when it came down to it, I was concerned about how it all is going to work out. And unfortunately, when I got down there, after a couple of weeks of going down there, I knew that this was not going to be a situation that was really going to work out, because they had one way with their parents when I was visiting them before, when I was interviewing. They had another way with them, a little less nice, when I was first moving down there. After about 3 weeks of being down there, they returned to their normal behavioral pattern with her and with Phyllis and with Saul. And it was really a sad thing. It was just really an abandonment issue. It was clear to me that they had wanted Phyllis, who came from England over to the United States, that they had wanted her solely to marry Saul so that she could be the recipient of his pension that he had received, because he owned a major chain of supermarkets in Los Angeles in the 50s and 40s and 50s, and he sold that to Safeway. He sold all those stores at, I think it was Sunshine Market or something. He sold this entire chain to Safeway, received all this money, and had this pension coming in, like $5,000 a month coming in forever. And Michael wanted to keep that money coming in. The only way to do that was to get a beneficiary that would be married to his dad, to keep that going.
John, how long into the situation before you started feeling like you were in a bad place? You knew 3 weeks in it was not what you wanted. How long did it take for you to start your way out? Or did you feel trapped?
6 years.
6 years?
6 years. I was there for a long time. Yeah, I went through a lot of stuff. I was so ignorant to a lot of stuff that was going on. I didn't realize that Mike was addicted to opiates. I hadn't really become familiar with the word Oxycontin. I didn't know what that was, but he was using Oxycontin constantly. He was taking it all the time. And he was falling asleep while he was driving. If he had a moment of lull, like at a stoplight, he would doze off.
Are they still alive today in Palm Springs area?
I'm trying to find it right now. I looked on Google Earth a few weeks ago, the property that they owned in Palm Desert Greens Country Club, and I see that it's been paved over now. It looks like it's a brand new lot waiting to be developed. So maybe they've moved on. They took out, they had 3 properties. The deal for me was a great deal. It was take care of all these properties, one in Minnesota, one in Atlanta, Georgia, and these are huge estates. And then within 30 days of me being there, I went with Mike and we went out to Burbank and we bought a Bentley Le Mans, a Bentley Arnage with a leather package that was just amazing leather package. And it was a $480,000 car. And we picked that up and drove it back to Palm Springs. And he let me drive it back to Palm Springs. And we were blowing Porsches and Mercedes off the road. I mean, we were going that fast. The car was amazing. I've never driven anything like it in my life. Never drove it again after that.
How long have you been working for them or with them?
I moved down there. I met them in the winter of 2003, I guess. I'm sorry, 2006. Winter of 2006 is when I first met them online, and then 2007 in April is when I moved down there.
And then you were down there in April 2007. How long before they have you driving a Bentley from Burbank that you purchased?
Oh, it was just within 30 days. And besides that, I mean, they had expensive cars. And Mike was retired from Delta. He was a pilot first, and then he worked as a dispatcher in Atlanta. So he had retired with all his pension. And Nick was retired from the UK, where he was a doctor for the state. Met Mike online, and then decided to move over to the United States. Went back to medical school, took his residency in the United States at 50 some odd years old. He was the oldest in his class, and all of his teachers and professors and supervisors were younger than him by 20 years. And he'd already done complex surgeries and all this other stuff. So he blew past medical school. Mayo Clinic picked him up and put him to work in the Mayo Clinic up in Minnesota working. And so he had this prestigious job. And then he transferred from there to Eisenhower and got picked up by Eisenhower to work with another gentleman. And that's how he ended up in Palm Springs. That's why they ended up in Palm Springs.
All right,
so this is when I came into the picture. So they were working, they had their business, they were growing, they were getting all these pensions coming in, figuring out what to do with all the money.